Now I'm ready to go.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody. This is Ken Long from Tortoise Capital in the middle of Kansas, and Kieran Turner coming to us from down under. And we're going to talk a little bit today about Heartmath. Um, and by way of introduction, these are guys that have done a lot of good scientific-based research on regulation of heart rate variability and how that learnable skill is connected to stress reduction. I've known about them for, I guess almost 30 years. I came across them when I came back from tour of duty in Europe and was stationed in Kansas for the first time, and was doing some work on human performance improvements and came across these folks from the Heartmath Institute. And at first I was kind of skeptical. I said, really, you think that the heart has some kind of role to play in our holistic intelligence? And but the science of it was compelling. My experience of using it was compelling, and so for many years I have relied on the techniques that they teach as a way to help manage stress. They have a long history of doing some great work with returning veterans as a way to handle stress management. And what's really nice about the stuff is that it's, in my view, it's nice is that it's uh, science-based. It's agnostic with respect to beliefs. Anybody can learn it kind of regardless of uh, culture or language. It's really physiologically based means of handling stress. And on the front end, what I find useful about it is that there's some quick techniques that Kieran will talk about that help us prior to the arrival of the stress event. There's a window of time in which we can recognize that our button just got pushed, and we can intervene with our conscious mind before the physiological phenomenon of stress comes through to ravage our body. So um, I'm it was a happy coincidence that Kieran and I started talking about this. He said, "Hey, I've been working on this stuff called Heartmath, and I think there's a real payoff for traders." And I said, "You don't have to convince me." And so push came to shove, and here we are ready to talk about this and hopefully share some insights about Heartmath and the technique. So I want to say welcome to my brother from another mother from Australia, Kieran Turner. How you doing this morning, mate?
Fantastic, Ken, and it's great to be having a chat with you about a fabulous area of knowledge, which is new for me, but obviously you've had it for a while. So Ken and I had a little bit of a talk about some structure for this session, and we're going to keep the session quite concise because everybody's busy. But we thought it might be useful to outline a purpose for this session, what the benefit of the session would be for traders, what the challenge is for traders, what the problem is that we all face, and how the Heartmath process is one solution. It's not the only solution, but it is certainly a wonderful solution, and I'm full of enthusiasm for it because it's all fresh for me. So just a little bit for a few minutes, just to talk a little bit about the background and build on what Ken's been talking about. So back in 1991, a cardiologist by the name of Dr. Armour discovered that the heart has its own nervous system and that it acts as a brain and acts independently from the brain in the head and has a long and short-term memory and has neural plasticity. Now, why all of that's exciting is because the capacity for us as human beings to learn and grow and develop and to change belief systems that don't serve us well. A lot of knowledge around neural plasticity tells us that we can actually change. So if you're struggling with your trading, which we all do, from time to time. What's fantastic about this sort of knowledge is that we've got evidence-based research that actually says we can change our mindsets and we can change them in a way in which they'll be more productive for us. So that's the important thing. How does Heartmath fit into that? Well, the fact that we now know that from science-based evidence that the heart has got an independent intelligence from the brain and is able to provide us with information in a quicker way than what the brain can. But importantly, from my perspective, it doesn't get the interference from the belief systems the way in which my thinking can do. And that's important for me as a trader. So if I think about the power of now and why that is important, because if I'm fully present in the moment, then there's less impact of my belief systems, and it's my belief systems that have always gotten me into trouble with trading. And they're belief systems that I've not always been fully aware of. So I've learnt trading, I've been to a number of courses, I've done all of Van Tharp's courses, I've done courses with Ken, and yet I would continually make errors, and I could never understand why that was the case until I started to do a lot of personal research about my mindset, and in particular sabotaging processes that I would do unbeknownst to myself. Then I come forward a little bit and I find out about Heartmath, and I have to say that has made a huge difference in a number of areas of my life. So the challenge for all of us as traders is that we learn the techniques. And for the majority of traders, notwithstanding the fact that we learn these techniques, we lose money over a reasonable time period. There's a whole range of statistics, you can research them yourself, but it's somewhere between 95–97% of traders will lose money and will never be successful. But when you think about the trading process, it's actually quite straightforward. So the question has always got to be, why is it that so many of us struggle with it? Even when we become successful, we struggle with it. And the answer to that is there's a whole range of belief systems sitting underneath the radar. And Ken talks about the monkey mind and the trouble that the monkey mind can cause us. So that's the problem, and one of the solutions that I found that would be of great benefit to get me into the present moment and to get me in some sort of resonance and coherent state. I've found that Heartmath process has been able to do that for me. And what does coherence mean? It simply means that there's harmony within my body and within my mind and within my emotions. And the wonderful thing about the Heartmath process is that they're able to demonstrate by graphs that can appear on the screen whether the mind is in a coherent state or whether it's in an agitated state. And I don't know about the rest of you, but if I'm in an agitated state, that's when I will be making mistakes about my trading. So it's not really necessary for us to go into a lot of in-depth analysis about why we do things. All that we need to do is to have a look at the Heartmath process. I'm not saying it's the only thing to do, but it is certainly a wonderful tool that all traders can benefit by. And we've got a very short MP3 that we can play now, and you can use that, and Ken will send that to you separately, or I can send it if anyone wants it. But before I start to play that, Ken, is there anything that you want to add to what I've been saying?
Well, I just want to reinforce this idea of the dual intelligence, and that is operating, the heart intelligence is operating on another channel simultaneous to what's going on inside our conscious mind. And we talk about the monkey mind and the power of that part of us to interfere with our rational mind. And so a lot of the psychological work we do is to try to figure out how uh, those two intelligences can operate, and and how we can keep the monkey doing what he does while our rational brain does what we do, and our ability to maintain the zero state, to get into that zero state, to recognize it as a physiological and psychological condition, that is a knowable mental environment, to me is connected to this state of coherence that we can achieve. And if you think about the difference between the monkey and a human, well, we both have opposable thumbs, we're both primates and all that, but what really distinguishes us is that rational mind's ability to insert just a little bit of its will into our state of mindfulness, that self-awareness, that with just that little bit of an edge, you get the differentiation between species and the difference between civilization and living in the zoo. So it's a very thin wedge, but it makes all the difference. And so um, I also just want to, I love that phrase, the power of now, and how we can recognize that there is such a thing as now versus a unconscious sense of time. The fact that we can recognize that there is such a thing as time, and that it flows in a wave, and that we can actually do something in this moment to affect future states. Our ability to visualize that is another one of the things that separates us from our chimp cousins, if you will. And so this concentration on doing and being, um, to learn this technique and to implement it, doesn't require that you know the science behind it, but there are things that you can do and experience for yourself, which will be very convincing to the chimp mind inside of us. We don't, the chimp is not convinced by rational explanations anyway. It's not his strength. He lives in the world of emotions and immediacy. And so the fact that these MP3s and the techniques can be done in seconds uh, becomes a very powerful tool for engaging our chimp and for creating that sense of coherence and harmony that is conducive to doing our best trading. We have evidence all over the place in our chat room of um, how difficult it is just to handle the simplest of rules when under pressure. That chimpanzee never goes away. It doesn't matter how good the rules are. There still is a human in there struggling with um, that chimp brain and versus the rational brain. And so this is a nice tool that is worth exploring. You'll find out pretty quickly if it works for you or not. And all it asks us to do is to suspend a little disbelief and just try the technique and see what comes of it. So this sense of knowing by doing and being, as opposed to implementing some kind of rational process at the level of beliefs, which then influences our behavior. It's really the activity that teaches. It's the experiencing the activity that teaches. So I think that's an important element of in this program. So having said that, I think we've sorted out that the best way to do this is to play the audio from your end so that it gets into the recording, and we'll make sure that if we have any trouble with the recording, we'll overdub the audio because they're relatively short, and we'll be posting the files for downloading. They're small, and we'll post those in the chat room and in the discussion boards for the both the swing trade and the day trade online courses, so that folks have access to this. So that's everything I wanted to say about that. You ready to push the button over there?
Let's go.
Off we go.
The quick coherence technique for adults. Create a coherent state in about a minute with the simple but powerful steps of the quick coherence technique. It uses the power of your heart to balance thoughts and emotions, helping you to achieve a neutral poised state for clear thinking. It is a proficient technique that helps you release stress, balance your emotions, and feel better fast. Quick coherence will help you find a feeling of ease and inner harmony. This will be reflected in your heart rhythms. The heart is a primary generator of rhythm in your body, influencing brain processes that control your nervous system, cognitive function, and emotion. When you're in heart rhythm coherence, you perform at your best, what athletes call being in the zone. You feel confident, positive, focused, and calm, yet energized. Quick coherence is especially useful when you start to feel a draining emotion, such as frustration, irritation, anxiety, or stress. Using quick coherence at the onset of less intense negative emotions can keep them from escalating into something worse. You can do the quick coherence technique anytime, anywhere, and no one will know you are doing it. In less than a minute, it creates positive changes in your heart rhythms, sending powerful signals to the brain. This can influence how you are feeling. You can also use quick coherence whenever you need more coordination, speed, and fluidity in your reactions. Let's begin. Step 1. Heart focus. Focus your attention on the area around your heart. This is the area in the center of your chest. If you prefer, the first couple of times you try it, place your hand over the center of your chest to help keep your attention in the heart area. Step 2. Heart breathing. Breathe slowly and casually, a little deeper than normal. As you inhale, feel as if your breath is flowing in through the heart. And as you exhale, feel it leaving through this area. Continue breathing with ease until you find a natural inner rhythm that feels good to you. Step 3. Heart feeling. As you maintain your heart focus and heart breathing, activate a positive feeling, a time when you felt good inside, and try to re-experience the feeling. One of the easiest ways to generate a positive heart-based feeling is to remember a special place you've been to, or the love you feel for a close friend, a family member, or a treasured pet. This is the most important step. Thank you for using the quick coherence technique for adults.
Well, that's it, Ken. Pretty simple.
Yep, this is. It always amazes me how quickly and easily this happens. We have a running joke in our family. Uh-oh, Dad's doing that thing again. Because as we mess around with our, we got heart rate monitors and the Fitbits and the blood pressure checkers and the pulse regulators. It's almost like a party trick. They said, "Hey, Dad, do that thing," and just shows just how quickly we can get into coherence. And we've got some of the other gizmos that Heartmath offers, and I have a few other biofeedback devices from different places. There's a guy in the UK, and I will try to remember to post some links to that. That was some independent research done from an institute in the UK, and there's a good TED talk on this too, that uses biofeedback devices that monitors heart rate variability and shows that it's something that we can influence with our brain and our feelings, and it has a direct payoff to our physiology. So the science on this is very well established, And heart rate variability is something that you can affect through intentions. And my experience with this has been, not only does this have a direct payoff in physiological well-being, but it also provides evidence to your own rational brain that in fact you can have an impact on your physiological state. You can affect the chimp through simple techniques with the rational mind, and then that acts as a way to build confidence in mindfulness as a general approach to being. That if you can handle something that seems like it's beyond control, but you can actually, with simple techniques, make a difference there, it leads you to believe that you can do it in other areas of behavior with impulse control. Young fellow was talking to me earlier this week. He wants to, move his business model away from just real estate investing and to add equity trading. And he asked me what I thought was the essential skills and traits and personality type that leads to good trading. And I said, I don't think that it's personality at all. Or if it is, I think personality and orientation to the world maybe is 10%. About 90% of it has to do with the ability to tolerate pain and to self-regulate and to have impulse control, so you can put a wedge in between your feelings and your actions. And so this, the technique that we just listened to is so easy to implement that if you know the physiological trigger of oncoming stress, you can insert this as a wedge, so it not only helps manage this stress energy that's about to wash over you, but it also helps you with other elements where impulse control makes a difference, like the it's an amygdala response that triggers that flight or fright response to external stimuli. That comes from biochemical releases from our glands. And so this stuff happens prior to your conscious thought. You become aware of those feelings after the feelings have already started to course through your body. So it's not like you're trying to do something that prevents the body from behaving the way it behaves. In fact, what you're doing is responding in the time that it takes for those chemicals to cause a physiological state change in your body. And so that little intervention early, I think of this almost like Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, who shows ways of regulating dog behavior by interrupting the natural flow of their undesirable behavior. That if you can, he does it by clicking or putting his hand on the dog in a certain way, that it interrupts that response, that environmental response. And this is really the same thing. So not only does it help you directly with managing the heart rate variability, but it gives you evidence that you can actually do this in other areas, that you can put a wedge between the itch to do something and then the actual follow through. So I really think that's a skill that gives good traders an edge, to the extent that you can intervene in that emotional overriding of our rational rules. This Heartmath not only helps us with the emotional state, but it gives us confidence we can do that in other areas of trading. So, yeah, that was a nice, pleasant interlude. I already feel better for having gone through it. I'm just amazed at how easily I fall into that state of heart rate regulation and the positive breathing.
And what's great, Ken, is that the more you do it, the easier it becomes and the quicker you can get into that state.
Yeah, I mean, literally within seconds, of starting that little routine, you can see the difference in the heart rate monitor. So I have both the Heartmath little devices, the M-Wave and the M-Wave 2, and I have the one from the UK. And as soon as I get intentional about the heart, you can see the effects within seconds, which gives you time to establish that positive state before the stress energy runs through you, and that it causes that energy to get channeled more easily, minimizes the effect on the body, and has a very
And
positive reinforcement. Go ahead.
yeah, and if we think about it this way, that the trading can be very stressful. And the question is, am I better off making my trading decisions when I've got the amygdala running, the monkey mind running, all those fight or flight chemicals racing through my body, or am I better off making those decisions when my emotions, mental state and physiology are all in a coherent state? And the answer is obvious.
Yeah. Well, brother, thanks for putting this together. Any final thoughts on this before we wrap it up and go out there and start slaying dragons and wrestling our monkeys?
Um, well, look, the only thing that I would say, Ken, is I've done a lot of research on this as you have. You're fairly busy. I'm open to anyone emailing me, and I'm happy to have one-on-one chats with people about getting started with this process. So that's available to all of our friends that are Tortoise members. Happy to do it.
Well, thanks, brother. I know you're itching to get back to the office, but the last photograph you showed me of your little office there on the beach and the sun and the surf and all that, that's a tough way to make a living. But somebody, like I said, everybody has to be somewhere, so you might as well be in that location. But
Yeah.
always great to
Just,
hear your voice, my friend.
okay, have fun.